Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Premium Interviews. I'm your host, Barry, and I am joined by a very special guest today. Not only is he an author of the amazing book, The Video Game Console Collector's Field Guide, but he's also a good friend of mine and member of the Premium Edition team. I'm joined by Tristan Ibarra.
Hello. Great to be here.
Now, for those of you that follow us, you might have seen Tristan start, talking and being a part of it. Everything we do at Premium, Rack and Ruin, which is up for pre-order at the time of this recording, is his first design job with us. So definitely check that game out. But we're here to talk about your book. So before we start talking about the book, let's let everybody know a little bit about your background. Where do you come from? What makes you the authority to write about this book?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I would ever call myself the authority, especially after talking to you, Barry. So I grew up in Northern California. And when I say Northern California, usually people think San Francisco. I am a San Francisco Giants fan, die hard. Really don't care about football, so who cares about the Niners? Sorry, people. But I'm almost to the Oregon border, up in Humboldt County, California, and we grew up kind of sheltered. I didn't have a Funko Land. I didn't have a GameStop. We had a software, etc. That's all we had. I don't ever remember them like selling PlayStation or even Sega Saturn or anything like that. So I got a lot of my information from like magazines and print media. I've been obsessed with ever since I got into the gaming uh, hobby. So to be a part of actually putting out some media myself is kind of a dream come true.
I agree. You coming from that background, that's interesting because growing up in the 80s and 90s, before the internet, if you can imagine a time before the internet, magazines were the main part of you know, how we got our information. So I'm curious, is that the main reason you decided to put this together, or like what was your inspiration for saying I want to do this field guide?
Yeah, so like all of us, yeah, I guess I should age myself first. I was born in 81. So I'm 40 years old. I grew up in what like people consider like the infancy of arcades to be the golden era, but I really think that we grew up in the golden era with like Street Fighter 2 and like all those awesome arcade games. Just I mean, the technology really was like so far beyond in the arcades when we were growing up. You couldn't get that experience at home. Um so uh I started collecting basically whenever I got a job in high school. I didn't have an income. We didn't grow up rich, so I really didn't have all that many consoles. We grew up with an NES. We had a couple games. You'd trade and uh rent stuff on the weekend every once in a while. We ended up with the Sega Genesis in the mid 90s. And I didn't start accumulating my own collection until I actually got my own income. Um, and then like I joined the Air Force after I was in high school or after high school, but I kept collecting and I just kept coming across like all this stuff that I'd never heard of. And when you grow up in an era before the internet, there's a lot of things that pass you by. So like in the infancy of YouTube, there were people like Gamester 81, Mark Bustler of Classic Game Room. They were kind of like trailblazers in showing all of us what we kind of missed out on as far as like obscure consoles. But the more research that I did, the more that I collected myself, the more I just kept coming across stuff that I'd never heard of. So started doing research, and this was kind of just a personal project, just putting together my own reference. And then eventually I'm like, wow, I could actually share this and make it into a book. So kind of evolved into that.
That's awesome. Yeah, writing a book is certainly no easy task, and I think it's something that a lot of us have always been like, oh, you know what? I could do this, and maybe I should like that. But we never get it off the ground, and you got it off the ground. It's a passion project. So
Oh my
I
goodness, the hours I can't get back.
well, that actually leads into my next question. On challenges, what would you say were some of the greatest hurdles that you had to overcome when, writing this book and putting it together?
There's a lot of conflicting information out there as far as like what a complete list of gaming consoles is, and you'll run into that if you're ever like collecting a complete library of games too. You're just not going to find something that's accurate unless you take a whole bunch of them together and compare them, and then compare them with like other collectors. So to like collaborate and to um, get other people's like professional opinions on these things, it's super important. Um, Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. So at the very beginning, I was really spinning my wheels and just, collecting as much information, just raw data as I could. And then sorting through that all, I think was probably the hardest part. Um, and to put it in sort of a logical, uh, logical, functional way to convey it on paper. Because I got it down to a dozen categories in my book, some of which, people can argue that some things belong in other chapters. Yeah, sure, but I think I did a pretty half good job of it at least.
Oh, don't sell yourself too short. Now, you did a great job. So, like you said, there's so little information about so many consoles out there, something that I've dealt with in my own travels during collecting. Now I'm curious, in your book, what would you consider to be your favorite parts? Something that maybe you discovered and you were happy to add. Maybe it was just a favorite part you edited, or like, what would you say would be your favorite parts?
So I think my favorite part, and this was just kind of a byproduct of doing it in Kickstarter. I added a Kickstarter only like section, like a bonus section for VIP collector. I called it VIP collectors, and Barry's actually one of the VIP collectors in the book. I love hearing other people's stories. So that is by far my favorite section in the book, and I really wish that I would have made it like, three times as big and included as many collectors as possible. Because I don't care about my own experience. I love to hear other people's experiences, and I love to help other people in their own collecting journey. Which is another reason why I'm so passionate about this book. Um, a lot of people don't know what's out there. A lot of people don't know what's available to play. I'd love for them to go out there, venture out. Everyone doesn't have access to like crazy obscure stuff, but if you can get out to like Frisco, Texas, go to the National Video Game Museum, they've got just an amazing array of things that you can play. And there are conventions all over the U.S. During convention season, well, which has kind of expanded into a year-round thing now. But yeah, you can go out there and play these obscure consoles too, and meet other people who know about them.
I have to say I agree with you. Just from looking at the book, that was my favorite part too, and not because I'm in it at all, because it's I
Yeah,
love reading
whatever.
the stories. I love reading stories. So
Yeah,
many people have come to me and over the years, and they've just said like, my collection sucks. I'm like, why does your collection suck? It's like, well, I only have X amount of games versus some people have thousands upon thousands of games. And I have to always tell them, like, no, your collection doesn't suck. It's your collection. It's not
yes,
about numbers. It's about your story. It's your journey, the games you have, and what they mean to you. And everyone's different,
yeah.
and you can't let anyone
It,
tell you otherwise.
there's only going to be one person with that Guinness World Record at any given time. And it might be important to that person, and hey, more power to them. That's an awesome collection. But your collection means what it means to you. You curate it the way you want it. Like the games mean something to you. Yeah, the size absolutely does not matter whatsoever when it comes to game collecting. So yeah, well, I put together this book. I am not by any stretch of the imagination like the biggest game console collector out there. But yeah, I've got my fair share of like obscure stuff, just stuff that I've wanted to own. But yeah, again, like just go out there and play, seriously. Like you don't have to own the stuff, just play it.
I couldn't
Emulate,
agree
I don't
more.
care.
Just have fun, right?
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself too short though. You have some great finds, and I love it when we you get to share different pickups. So now this book, one of the things is you launched it through Kickstarter.
Mhm.
So what was that like? Let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter process, the
Yeah,
experience.
so the first, so this is the edition that's actually on the website right now is the second edition of my book. It's existed in a few different iterations. What I consider to be the alpha iteration was just kind of a proof of concept for myself. Like in 2015, I had sort of a baseline. I think it was like Shutterfly or something like that I went on and uploaded my. It looks so bad. It's just god awful. But it's my alpha edition book, and there's only one of them. But whenever I went onto Kickstarter, obviously, like, I don't have the funds to just front this money myself. So Kickstarter was the perfect way to do it. And I'd never kickstarted anything before. I've been on the other side of Kickstarter, like, probably 100 times now. So I knew what to expect. I knew what I needed to deliver, and I did my best to do that. I, definitely learned some lessons from the first time that I carried forward to the second time, which was this past year. COVID and global shipping definitely didn't do me any favors. But those challenges aside, I think Kickstarter is just an amazing, amazing tool for anyone who wants to get their idea off the ground, as long as it's a solid one.
Yeah, I agree. Kickstarter's always been this iffy thing, right? Some of these Kickstarters have
Hmm.
panned out, and some of them it's like it's been 5 years. How long does it take to develop this game? So
Yeah.
it's really great to have another Kickstarter success where the game, or in this case, the book, actually comes to fruition. So now I do want to ask, what's next? Where, somebody gets the field guide that says, "This is great. I want the next Tristan book." What's coming?
Okay, so well, sticking with the field guide first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking about a third edition because I can't have everything in there. And as I alluded to, well, no, actually, I didn't allude to. This is before we started recording. But Barry is a very seasoned collector and historian himself. He's very modest though, so he's very unassuming until you start talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, do you have this in your book?" Like, I've never even heard of that. Do you have this in your book? Barry, stop talking, please. You're making me feel bad. So, I'm taking notes, and if I ever do make a version 3 of my book, then it'll have some Barry additions in there.
You just
Um,
call it the Barry edition.
in the meantime, if there are any egregious omissions, I do have a digital chapter that I keep current on my website, which we'll plug at the very end of this video. So if you see something missing that is egregious, it's probably hopefully in that section. And you can go and check that out afterward. But okay, on to actually answer your question. Um, at the beginning of when we were all locked down for COVID, I was just, like abundance of time. I was still in the Air Force, but like my primary job had me going all over the world. But obviously, like all travel was completely locked down. And I found myself, with just like an abundance of time. At the same time, I was getting ready to retire from the Air Force, which I did in October of 2020. So, I mean, like, talk about boredom. Um, yeah. So I like to create things and share them for other people, and for like collecting aids. Um, I'll like put together visual checklists. I love whenever magazines would do like visual checklists of like an entire library of games, and I you don't really see a whole lot of that, and you especially don't see that for like the Toshiba or the Samsung Nuon or the Tiger Telematics Gizmondo. It just doesn't exist. So I started making more and more of these things, and then I decided to make a book. So just like this one came into existence, it started as a personal project just for personal use, and then it grew to it's going to be about 1,800 pages across 3 books. Yeah, and that one will be kickstarted next year. It'll be the video game collector's field guide.
Yeah, I'm very excited about those those books, and just to see them. Like as you were describing it, it made me think of the old Magic the Gathering encyclopedias that I would use as a kid playing Magic, where it would just have every set with every card, and it was just
Oh
so
yeah,
cool because there was no internet, and you
was
couldn't
that in
afford every card.
Scry?
It wasn't Scry. I think it was
It
like the
wasn't
pencil.
Scry. No, that was the price guide. That's
Yeah, it was
right.
the press guide. It was the physical books. It was just called the encyclopedias, and you were just able to look through and see what cards existed and what cards maybe you wanted to find and hunt down. So I'm excited to see that for the games, because sometimes just the box art is just really cool to look back at the older box art, but just like you said, there's so many systems out there that no one even knows what a full library is, because it's, oh, I have this game. Where'd that game come from? Is there a little story? Was that ever released? What's the deal with it? So I love that concept, and I very much look forward to it. And I do apologize for any additions I add to the collector's field guide. It's not on purpose.
No, I'm very much looking forward to you actually editing that, because I've been so careful to try and like get the experts, because I don't collect all of the I'm not a completionist. I have completed maybe like two console libraries, and one of them's like the Virtual Boy with like 13 titles, and I'm not even counting the Japanese
14.
stuff or for yeah sorry 14 titles, and I'm not even counting the Japanese stuff. So I'm not even like a completionist to the max.
You have Jack
Um,
Brothers, damn you.
you don't have Jack
I
Brothers?
do not have Jack Brothers.
That is really surprising.
I
Actually,
know,
I've
right?
helped
So
2 people get that. Now you'll be the third.
I'll take
Um,
it.
but I've been really careful about being as precise and as thorough as I can, because I don't want to make a second edition of 1,800 pages. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what a waste of
That's
paper.
Yeah, that's definitely a big book, or books in this case. And for those of you that haven't even seen the guide, maybe you've been to the website and you've seen the pictures. I actually have it here, so you can see the size of this thing. This thing is huge. I do have to ask what your definition of a field guide is, because this is not anything I would bring with me in the field. This is heavy, and this is just the slip cover. So I'm just gonna, it's ridiculous. There we go. Like that's the actual book. So let's show everybody how thick this book is. Look at this. This is not a skinny little field guide, like pocket guide you put in your backpack. This is hardcover. Has a nice, real good real feel to it. Red gilded, like high quality stuff. So not a field guide in terms of a pocket guide, but
Yeah, so that I mean, like, I was whenever I was fishing around for like names from my book, uh, books are called a whole bunch of different things, an encyclopedia, an omnibus, you name it. But a field guide, yes, is typically like you would find a bird watching book that's like tiny and fits in your pocket. But I would argue if you have big enough pockets, you could put my
ah,
book in it.
there you go.
So,
It's a field guide for really
and
big
I
pockets.
had actually to further that joke, and I didn't go any further with it, but like I was thinking about like making a Kickstarter reward as like a leather satchel to like sling over your shoulder so you can like take it with you, but I don't think anyone wants to do that.
That's great. But no, um, I do want to say, well, first off, is there anything you want to say, like last thing you would like to address to people watching this, why they should pick up your book, or if they're on the fence, like what you just want to say to them?
So one thing, I mean, like one thing that I would love to say is I want to give credit to Evan Amos. Hugely give credit to Evan Amos, who owns a lot, or well, I mean, like he put them out in the public domain. He took so many amazing pictures of consoles. If you look up a console on Wikipedia, odds are it's Evan Amos. That's his work. He was kind enough to put it in the public domain for schmucks like me to be able to put it in my book, so that you know what it looks like. Yes, I could take a picture of my own console, and I did that in a lot of instances in my book. But it pales in comparison to what he's done. So I'm just super grateful to him. I'm grateful to like I mentioned Gamester 81. I mentioned Mark Bustler. All of those like trailblazers who were on YouTube and actually like gave us all this information on stuff that we'd never even heard of. So I mean, it really got my curiosity going, and I owe that to them. Another shout out is Rob Ivy. He actually goes by the Obsolete Geek on YouTube. It wasn't until a convention that I went to in Texas where I played his Sharp X68000. That was the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm making this book happen. Like I've got to do it.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it's been an amazing passion project. I encourage and anyone to go and check it out. There's information out there. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Premium Edition if you have any questions. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Seriously, this is definitely a dream come true to actually have my product out there.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for joining. And if you want to follow Tristan, you want more information, you can find him and all the information about his book on Facebook at facebook.com/VG Console Guide. You could also go to the webpage, which he alluded to about his chapter there at vgcollectorguide.com. And of course, you can purchase his book right now. It's available in hand at premiumeditiongames.com. So please uh, definitely give it a look and give it a purchase and give Tristan some love because the book is amazing and there's so much love and care and effort that has gone into this book. Uh, it's absolutely worth taking a look at. So Tristan, again, thank you so much for joining me today.
Just one last thing, I would be
Go.
remiss to I have to thank, because like the first book, I failed to mention this. The first Kickstarter was self-published. I did that myself. It was a nightmare. Having a publisher, and thank you, Jeff Wittenhagen. Having a publisher has been a godsend. It's made the process so much easier. Okay, now I'm done.
I I can absolutely agree with that. So yes, this is a Higgins Alley, publication. So it's really great that we were able to all get together and make some cool stuff happen. So please, again, go to premiumeditiongames.com to purchase the book and all of Tristan's web pages for more information. Thank you all so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.